It's the final race of the 4-race Grand Prix circuit. The winner will take home the coveted 200cc Flower Cup. Despite having placed on the podium in all 3 previous races, only an emphatic first place finish will secure victory. Leaning on all your skills and knowledge of the track, you managed to take an early lead, one on which you would keep a commanding grip all the way into the final straight, when suddenly, along came a blue shell. Meanwhile, your younger brother, unable even to hope to compete with your immense skill, knowledge and experience, coming from back-to-back last place finishes and dreaming only of the glory of seeing what 11th place must feel like, enters the final lap, as expected, in last place, when suddenly, along comes a blue shell. For those who have never had a childhood, or the joy or frustration of playing Mario Kart and are thinking, what the hell is this guy on? Allow me to elaborate. Mario Kart is one of the most successful racing franchises in the world. The first game, Super Mario Kart, was released in 1992 on the SNES, and as of 2019, there have been 9 console games, 4 arcade games, and 1 mobile game. The series has been both a critical and commercial success, receiving Metacritic scores between 82 and 94% and selling over 138 million copies. So yeah, kind of popular franchise. It's been a winning formula tons of other franchises have tried to emulate. We've had Crash Team Racing, Sonic Racing, M&M Kart Racing, South Park Rally, Toy Story, Little Big Planet Karting, and no surprises here, for the most part, they all sucked. As far as gameplay goes, players compete in go-kart races, choosing one of several Mario franchise characters such as Mario, Luigi, Bowser, Peach, or even some extended Nintendo Universe characters such as Link from the Zelda series, or Donkey Kong from, well, Donkey Kong. As for any racing game, the point is to outrace the competition and finish first, but that's probably where the similarities between a Mario Kart game and any other real-life go-kart racing end. The levels themselves will have you underwater, defying gravity and soaring through the clouds while avoiding being scorched by volcanoes, squashed by giant sentient thwomp bricks, and eaten alive by piranha plants. You know, the kind of stuff you can expect at your local go-kart circuit. You also pick up several abilities with numerous effects such as a star that makes you invulnerable, red turtle shells that act like heat-seeking missiles, a squid that sprays ink in your enemy's eyes, making it difficult to see, and heck, why not, one that turns you into a giant speeding bullet racing through the competition and obliterating anyone in your path. But one item lives in infamy above, or below in the reaches of hell, the other items, and that is the blue shell. The simplicity of its name really belies its rather fiendish nature, because it's an item that certainly does play against most respected gaming tropes and pillars of game design. Its proper name is the spiny shell, which, while a tad more menacing, certainly doesn't portray its threatening nature accurately. It's been described by game reviewer Kyle Orland as the scourge of the skillful and the great white hope of the novice, because what the blue shell does is target the player who is in the lead and follow them in relentless pursuit across the entire course. It then hovers for a few dreadful seconds above the race leader's head like the sword of Damocles, before crashing to the ground, halting them in their tracks, invariably letting other racers catch up, and perhaps even pass the blue shell's now seething victim. It's a contentious item, to say the least, the infamous blue shell, and certainly one which the game directors of various iterations of Mario Kart have had to defend from sustained criticism for many years. But the blue shell is certainly the game's ultimate equalizer, and part of what makes Mario Kart the game that it is. Game director Kozuke Yabuki went so far as to say that they had tried many times to see what the game would be like without the blue shell, but that it always felt as if something was missing. Could it be that despite all the complaints about it, that the key ingredient to Mario Kart's success compared to the abysmal failure of most other kart games is as simple as the inclusion of its most hated power-up? The power of the blue shell is balanced a little by the fact that it's a rather rare pickup, so you won't find it that often, but also that you can never get it if you are currently in the top 3 spots in the race, and the odds of finding it increase incrementally the further back you are from the race leaders. This means that the worse you are doing, the better your chances are of finding one. The blue shell was introduced in the original Mario Kart and every subsequent iteration as a means to provide hope for any player, no matter how badly that player is doing. A way to even the odds and decrease the skill gap. What makes it unique, and perhaps the reason for its poor reputation amongst skilled players, is that instead of simply providing an advantage to the poorly performing or unskilled player by means of, say, a speed boost or a way of catching up, instead it actively punishes the skillful player. This is a very rare concept in game design, one where a player's skillfulness is met with punishment rather than reward. The key to the philosophy of the blue shell is that it exists. Bad fortune exists. Bad things happen even when you are winning. Sometimes they take the form of relationships breaking down. Sometimes the whole world shuts down with a case of the sniffles. And sometimes there is just a spiny blue shell with your name on it. It's how you react to the blue shells that shows who you really are. Some react, as you might expect, ranting about how unfair the blue shell is, how it takes no skill to use, that it actively punishes players for being good at the game, and that only noobs use it. The Mario Kart forums are littered with threads and comments about how it should be removed from the game, pleading with the developers either to remove it or at least make a mode where you can opt out of it. Some going as far as to call the blue shell gaming communism. Before the latest update of Mario Kart 8, where you can now choose to disable certain power-ups, including Old Blue, players would organize private competitions and create a gentleman's agreement where no one in the race will use the blue shell if it's picked up, on threat of disqualification. In true gamer fashion, of course, others have sought to find ways to outplay the blue shell entirely, with varying levels of success. Dodging it by riding off a cliff as the shell hits, using a speed boost a split second before the shell makes contact, or even collecting a blue shell yourself and then slowly climbing the ranks while still holding it. Apparently you can't be hit by a blue shell while holding one yourself. Supposedly, Mario Kart fans have found around 10 different ways of avoiding the blue shell. Ironically, taking an item designed to punish the skillful, and by using even greater skill, nullifying it completely. Essentially, they've turned the blue shell from the scourge of the skillful to just the scourge of the moderately skilled. So complaining that you're being punished for being so good at the game, it's more that you're being punished for being kind of okay. Not good enough. It's sort of weird flex, but okay, as the children would say. Wait, is this cringe on main? I can't keep up. Finally, there are those who would simply accept that the blue shell exists. It's part of the game. Sometimes you get hit by blue shells, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you pick up blue shells yourself and use them to your advantage. It's all part of the game. I think the philosophy of the blue shell is as simple as shit happens. But with both the usual negative spin and a fresh positive angle too. Yes, in life, shit happens. Sometimes your beach day gets rained on, sometimes you find hair in your food, sometimes it's just 10,000 spoons and all you need is a knife. Thanks, Alanis. Shit happens. Notice that's the entire saying, just shit happens. Not shit happens to you, just shit happens. The key is you aren't being targeted, it's just something that happens and could happen to anyone. The Stoic Philosophers would tell us that we don't get to choose what the shit is. Who it happens to, where it happens, when it happens, or how often it happens. Heck, you might not even know why it happens. What you do get to choose is to not dwell on it, and to not let it cause you any disturbance. You get to choose how much it affects your overall outlook on life, your attitude, and your will. You get to choose how much, if any, emotions you invest in the shit that just happened. You get to choose whether or not the shit defines you, or it strengthens you. It also doesn't say bad shit happens, it just says shit happens. Okay, this might be the shittiest paragraph in this video. Shit happens only because I judge what happens to be shit. Without my judgment, there is no shit to happen. Most folks will think shit happens, but the wise will realize that it's our judgment that has deemed what has happened to be shit. A subtle but substantial difference. And hey, if you want to judge shit as bad, just as often as bad shit happens, good shit happens too. Sometimes that meeting you've been dreading for fear of being bored to death gets cancelled. Sometimes you find $100 you left in a pair of jeans. Sometimes someone you have a crush on but never thought to even mention because they are so far out of your league texts you, hey. Yes, we're too wise. Shit happens. Blue shells exist. They are part of the game. Remember that just as often as you are cruising in first place, only a few seconds from crossing the finish line, blue shells happen. Just the same, when you are facing consecutive last place finishes and are set to add another L to the results column, blue shells happen.